stay? Where are you going to be talking from?
Probably like there and then over.
We'll start here. We're close to the speaker. So I'll have you go ahead and do it right here. Yeah.
How did you know?
My younger son
Oh, yeah.
What's your name?
Anne.
Anne.
Yeah.
Her name is Anne. Okay, and talk to me a little bit.
Hello.
Okay, you know what is the secret? Don't walk in front of the speaker.
Okay, walk behind.
You're going to get a feedback. So you
Got
can
it.
go everywhere except in front of the speaker.
Okay.
I got you for sure.
Can you hear me?
So I'm going to open the microphone.
Okay.
You know, I don't know where we start.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Are you going to jump on the stage or are you going to be over?
I'll probably stay around in this area.
When I hear your name, I'm opening the mic.
Okay.
Now it's going to be up.
Thank you.
That's a tricky one. You got it centered down low. And that's why he is out for like 1 hour. Yeah, so you could get low. That distance is like the farthest distance. That's actually that's really I'll show you.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of our 4th Patient Empowerment Summit. My name is Arusa Khalid. And yeah. Yes, I'm a patient advocate. I've been working with Hope for Stomach Cancer for almost 5 years now, or if not, yeah, it's been pretty wild. But before we get started with our program for day 1, I'd like to thank our generous sponsors for the program. Can we please give them a round of applause? Perfect. So with Wi-Fi information for when we're in the meeting space, that's currently up on our screen. If you are staying in the hotel, Wi-Fi is complimentary for all Marriott Bonvoy members, which is also free to sign up. Restrooms can be found down the hallway leading to the hotel lobby. And to begin the day, here is a video highlighting our 30 sorties.
But I made appointments, OBGYN, to see what's going on with my ovaries. They were just constantly checking in on my ovaries, wasn't concerned about my stomach problem.
Just kept being told, just keep taking the over-the-counter stuff, stay away from acidic foods and foods that bother you, don't eat them.
All these patients that go to their primary doctor and say, hey, I have heartburn. Hey, I'm really uncomfortable, and they're being dismissed.
My mother did have rectal cancer. So when appointments did start, and he was very upset seeing how much was there and what the heck with not being screened earlier.
Just back and forth to primary to GI, probably at least 8 doctors.
And the people who were diagnosed, they consider themselves lucky. They are not lucky that they have stomach cancer. They're just lucky that they weren't dismissed.
When you catch this before it becomes stage 4, it's a totally different ballgame.
They said, Dr. Wu, from all of these things that we've talked about, the one thing that we're realizing is you do not fuck with this cancer. And she goes, that is absolutely right.
80% mental and 20% physical. It is a huge mental game.
Don't accept the storyline that is given to you. Turn it into what you need it to be to get through what you need to get through.
I knew that if it was in the peritoneum, I wanted him to be able to have HIPAC. So I had started the ball rolling to get all the records together to get him into MD Anderson.
She goes, this is not how people find out. I think she said something to the effect of, if you don't remove your stomach, I would have met you in 3 years and it would have been too late.
This trial was groundbreaking. You're seeing now different standards of treatment now that are including an immunotherapy along with the chemotherapy. And in some cases, even seeing an immunotherapy as the first line of treatment.
I hope that there's more and more people that are finding the right drugs and the right trials and the right cocktails for themselves so they can have the positive results.
He's outlived the prediction of the 2 years, so that is hope. I'm hoping it gives other people hope.
I don't want to give up on life, so I still want to do the things I want to do in life, So like I said, getting back to work once I can, and giving back to the community is one thing that I'm looking into.
Is it our food? Is it our environment? We need to invest more in research. We need to invest more in being proactive.
There is some amazing people that are no longer here that are helping us bring more attention to what we need to do. It came down to getting the endoscopy that changed everything. And so how do we bring that as an option sooner?
Perfect, yes. I know we're all probably familiar with the 30 stories. It's amazing to get through if you haven't had a chance. Okay, so I would like to now introduce our first speaker, Ann Yip, who will be speaking on healing through play. Ann is a licensed clinical professional counselor in Maryland and a licensed LPC in California. She received her Master's of Science from Johns Hopkins with a concentration in counseling and with a specialty in school counseling. Furthermore, she obtained her postmaster's in clinical mental health counseling also from Johns Hopkins. She is a registered play therapist supervisor and believes this further pushes her towards her passion of working with children. She believes that everyone, including children, need a safe space to express their emotions, fears, and dreams. Yip currently owns 2 practices, Pack and Play Therapy and Leaf Star Therapy in Maryland. Please welcome Ann.
Hello. Hi. My name is Ann. Thank you so much for the introduction. Today I'm going to be going over healing through miniatures. Oh, can you hear me? So healing through miniatures. And just a little bit about myself, since that's my family, my 2 kiddos and my husband, and that's just a little blurb about myself. Today, one of the things that I will kind of require and request is that everyone signs one of these releases. It's just basically outlining that this is not a patient-client provider relationship, that this is pro bono work, and that this is a workshop, and confidentiality cannot be ensured, especially it being live streamed. And so if you could sign that and then return that back to me, that would be awesome. And you can go over, read it through. If you have any questions, please let me know. So just a little background on what is play therapy. So play therapy, although in the introduction, which is lovely, it is used for children. It is also used for adults. If you think of play is the first language that any individual learns before they even learn a language. So it is your first language. When you were a child, that's how you expressed your feelings, that's how you processed your feelings, and that's how you understood the world. And as you grew into an adult, your main communication or main way of thinking became words. But play is rooted in your core, it's rooted in how you've learned to communicate, and so that's why play is so powerful and impactful for even adults. It really brings you back to your first language. And just a little blurb about what play therapy is. And the biggest thing is it's the safest way to express those feelings, which is the cool part. Like, you don't feel like you're expressing the hard things because you don't have to use words. You can just do it through play and toys and expressive symbolisms. And that's what we're gonna do today. Any questions about this? No? Okay. And here are some more benefits on play therapy. But really, any questions there? So today what we're gonna do is I've laid out a range of miniatures. And today I want every individual to come up to the table. And I know I'm wondering if maybe we can do it by sections, like this section, if everyone's okay with that. And when you come up to the front, please pick miniatures that speak to you. Miniatures where your gut is like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna take this one. I'm gonna take this one. So take those with you. And that's kind of the first step. And once everyone has their miniatures, I will prompt you to the next portion of the workshop. So if we could we have this section come up first, if that's okay? Oh, you can take as many as you need, the ones that really speak to you. And there's more up here, so there'll be enough for everyone. Let me kind of move this out of the way for you guys. And if I could give everyone here about like 30 more seconds to pick. I know you want more time because there's a lot up here and it can be overwhelming. But I just want to make sure, just time-wise. Oh yes, yep. Take as many as you want, whichever ones speak to you. About 10 more seconds, I know. You're like, okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. And then if I could have the middle section come over and pick their part miniatures. Oh, I'll give this section a little bit more time. I think there's more people here, so we'll do a little bit more time on this one. So please take your time, really look at the miniatures, which ones speak to you, which ones really resonate with you. And please take as many as you want. The more that speak to you, do not be afraid. give about a minute more, if that's okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, if I could have, I know everyone's like, oh, I want to spend more time at the table. If I could have the last group come up, and as the last group's coming up, if everyone could pass forward the release, the terms and condition, that would be awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you didn't get one of these? Okay. I actually have no idea where they went. We might have to find you one. Thank you. Are these? Oh, wait, no. Oh, okay, got it. Thank you so much. Oh, you didn't get. I wonder where the. I wonder where the blank ones went. Oh, there's a blank one here. There's one blank one here. Thank you. Oh, are those the blank ones there? Are those blank? Okay, awesome. And then if I could have, I think I need, perfect. Here's some. Did everyone get a release? If not, they're right over here. Yes, of course.
Do you mind going back to your intro page just so you can show
Oh, yeah.
PowerPoint? Thanks. Oh, why?
Thank you so much. Oh, okay, right now? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing that part. So today, I want to kind of go over our objective. Our objective is really to build connection and emotional, a space for emotional expression. And so please feel, with the idea that it is being live streamed, as much as you're comfortable sharing, please feel free to do that. Thank you so much. So everyone has their miniature. So with your miniature, if you could create a world, any world that you want, please create that world. And as you're creating this world and you notice like you need a little bit more for your world, you're noticing, I want to add to my world. If you would like, you can go back up to the miniature table, grab a few things to add to your world. But once you're done, I'll give everyone probably like maybe like 4 more minutes to create that world. And if you're comfortable with your world as it is, if we can give the other participants that 4 minutes to add to their world, that would be lovely. Thank you. And for those of you who have your worlds finished, if you guys can find a partner, that would be the next step. Just one other individual to partner up with. About 3 more minutes. About 2 more minutes. Yeah, there's a lot of potties in there.
Oh,
yeah.
Can I get a hell yeah? No one's without potty. Absolutely. Important.
Yes. And so I know if we had all the time in the world, I would give you guys so much more time. But right now, I am going to ask everyone to finish their worlds. So if everyone could finish up their world, that would be lovely, so we can get to the last bit. I know, it's hard. So now that everyone's at their seats, if they could partner up and find a partner and tell your story. So tell your story. What does your world look like? What is the story of the world you've created? If you could partner up and share that story with each other. And I will give about 4 minutes for you to do that. We'll do 5 minutes. 5 minutes for you to share the story of your world to your partner.
This represents the little happy where my kids are all kind of just off, not really supporting me, just off watching me. And the garden but now, but never goes far from the body. It's her because she doesn't want to get her episode like so she happens. So you got to be prepared for that shit. But yet again, I'm celebrating because I can dump that shit and get rid of it and just still live life. That's my story. Little, making a lot of breakthroughs for she knows I'm in it, but she has
Okay, about 2 more minutes. If you can hear me, 2 more minutes. Yeah, so make sure both partners share their story with one another at this point, yep. So please make sure both parties have shared their story. Okay, about 1 more minute. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. If I could have everyone's attention. And that would look like not speaking to your partner right now. I know your story is important and you want to keep sharing, but if everyone could 1, 2, 3 eyes on me. Nice. Thank you so much. I know your story is very important, and thank you for sharing your story with your partner. Is there anyone willing to share their world with the group? If you're willing, of course, you do not have to if you don't want to. There's someone here, yeah.
So I have a rhino, a woman that's doing her best to look great, and a toilet. The rhino is stand strong, look strong, you know, you look good, nothing's going on with you, everybody just thinks that you're just like this wonderful person because you don't look sick. This is me trying to not look sick and just, because all I can control is my outside, you know, and that doesn't work all the time, but this is the one thing that I have control over, so I try and look okay. But in reality, there's days when I'll have depends and stuff like that, you know, there's times when I go someplace I know where the toilet is first, so, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable to be able to share that with the group. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Oh, yeah. Patricia, I see your name tag. Yes. Oh, you can do whatever makes you feel comfortable.
So, when I got diagnosed with stomach cancer.
Oh, wait. I forgot. This part is crucial, apparently. I'm sorry. This is a crucial part. Yes. Apparently, I forgot about that crucial part.
When I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, it was like it came for me at the worst time. My kids all moved out. My mom was sick with dementia. And I felt all alone. And I would sit by the garden, and in the garden, I would watch all the things that I grew. The birds would start to eat, the bugs would fly all over it, and I would think, they're surviving, those plants. I can survive. So now I celebrate my survival, but keeping with the toilet theme, you have to know where they are. And that's the first thing I locate whenever I'm out, just in case. But I celebrate that I can dump all that crap and get rid of it.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, thank you so much for being vulnerable to share that with the group. Is there anyone else who would like to share their story? Yes, we have another volunteer. Well, apparently I was told that microphone is very crucial, and I forgot with the first participant, so yeah.
This was interesting. I really did see this with the eyes of my heart, not the eyes of my head. It's basically a dinosaur and a chimera without wings, which makes it even more poetic, in a cage, duking it out, trapped. The dinosaur is this feeling of, I feel obsolete. I don't feel that on my own. It's just what is coming in after me. You know, people are nice, but they act kind of a little too charitable and not like a friend. The chimera, especially with the missing wings, is just representing all the changes I'm going through right now. And this last year was a lot of change, physically, emotionally, mentally. And yeah, the fence just, I guess that could be like my house. I feel trapped in there because I'm pretty disabled, and it's hard to get, you know, out maybe more than a mile or so. So that's that.
That's your story. That's your world.
All right, where do I start? So I was diagnosed pretty much 2024, and it's been a roller coaster. I've got 2 young kids, and I've got a little sink with a mirror, self-reflection. It's been, you know, just a lot of self-reflection. Am I strong enough? Am I capable to be a parent, to be a survivor, to do all the things that, you know, a mom and a survivor is supposed to do. I have little pine cones to show that I have 2 redwoods by my house that I would go to when I had my little chemo bag in the middle of the night. I was puppy training. I got a puppy to get me through this, and I would go in between the redwoods and just sit. And I still sit in between the redwoods and just exist and self-reflect. And the pineapple is just to symbolize visitors. Like, I need my village, and I want people to come by and visit. Glimmer of hope, I still have that hope. Toilet, we all know. Baby in the toilet. You know, I've got kids making a mess. I make a mess. This is to show my frustration. I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm angry that my doctors didn't listen to me. They could have caught it earlier. This is my wild ride. I'm very carefree, and I feel like this cancer has sucked that out of me, and I want to be carefree and wild again. And this is my warrior, because I'm ready to fight.
Yeah.
And this is just my treasures, the treasures that I find with my kids and my family still, and that we can do this.
Yeah.
We can be strong together and advocate. Yeah.
So
thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for sharing your story. And it sounds like there's parts of you that you grieve the loss of, and parts of you that you admire. Like there's like this 2 very different feelings happening for you in your world. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That.
I'm also grieving my stomach. Like,
yeah, you are.
I'm like saying goodbye to it, you know, and I didn't realize that I would actually miss it. But
you're grieving your
I'm
old
grieving.
life.
Yeah.
The old you. Yeah. So thank you for sharing.
You're
that.
welcome.
Is there anyone else willing to share their world with the group? Anyone? Oh, we have another participant.
Hi, everybody. I did not do this intentionally. This was totally subconscious, but I got a bunch of action figures fighting over a piece of pie. And I don't know how I came about orienting them in a half circle around this piece of pie. But after listening to everyone else's stories, I was like, oh, right. This little kangaroo with a Joey in their pouch, I'm like, that's my wife. She really likes pie. So does the baby.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I don't know if I'm the dinosaur, but I kind of do feel like I am. Like I'm the dinosaur, like also want the pie because, and then I realized that it's just all I want is to eat the way I used to, which is crazy. And it feels like I was creating this world as we were all thinking about it, and I was collecting these toys, and I was like, what just happened? But yeah, I just like really miss eating sweets as much as I used to. I really miss that familial look that I used to get when I used to just like eat way too much, right? Like everyone always used to be like, well, how did you eat that fast? I was like, I don't know. And now I'm like, I think I can have this pie. So I guess is Captain America not painted my brother? I don't know. It's just like who's who, but it's just, I guess it is kind of like a grieving process of like what was before and how we all enjoyed it and how it was different then. Yeah. And now I kind of feel like it's real different. Yeah. And I don't know if I can eat that pie anymore. I don't know if I can eat anything anymore. I have to constantly think about everything I have to eat. It's getting a little bit easier about 8 months out, or 6 months out. But yeah, I don't know. I was like, why did I arrange these in a semicircle around the pie? So that's, the grief, I guess.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I know it's about a pie, but it means more than a pie. It means you've lost like a big part of your life, this sense of community, this sense of having time with your family over pie. Like you lost that. And thank you for sharing that, yeah. And you said something so impactful, right? Like you're just creating this world like, oh, it's just a pie, like I'm just gonna arrange it. And then you realize there's a story beyond the world that you created. And that's the impact of play therapy, right? Is like you're creating something in such a playful, fun way. Like you're like, oh, I'm just like, you know, the kangaroo and the half-painted Captain America, right? And then you're like, wait, no, this is my brother. This is my wife. And this pie means that I lost my ability to do a normal activity that all humans can do, right? Eat a pie. And I lost that, and I have to grieve that, not only by myself, but with my family, with my community. So thank you for sharing that story. And then we had another, one more. We could do one more if that's okay with everyone, yeah? I wish I could hear everyone's world because it matters. Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So my name is Guy, and I've been battling cancer since 2018. So I'm stage 4. I've been stage 4 for 4 or 5 years. And, you know, it was, at one point at the beginning, it was so bad that I was ready to let it go. And my wife says, you don't. You're going to fight. I say, oh, I'm afraid of my wife, so. So I did. I fight. And complication, things like this. And then suddenly I get cancer-free. And a year later, I'm stage 4. So I say, okay, well, you know, just keep going. I say, oh, I'm stage 4 now. So I need to get my bucket list. There's a few things I want to get. So I did it. A bicycle and a car, I wanted to have it. So things go along. I did really well, even though it was up and down, did really well. And my world here is basically I pick 2 dinosaurs for my grandson and little things for my granddaughter. And the reason is for a year and a half now, we are parenting them. We are rescuing my grandkids, and cancer suddenly, the focus on the cancer disappeared. I still have to fight it. But now my world is those 2 little kids and create bonding with them, and one of them is with us at the conference here. And this is my world. I mean, their life now is my focus, where it used to be my cancer before. I have to admit, I've been very lucky with immunotherapy, where at one point it wasn't working, and now it's working, and now I have to keep fighting for them because they need me. And this is my story.
Guy, right? Is that you? Thank you, Guy. Like that is an impactful story, right? You're noticing like the cancer was the center of my world, and all of a sudden cancer became the back burner. And what's important to me is this connection I have with my grandkids, my 2 grandsons and my granddaughters. Like that is your priority.
I have a good life, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it makes a big deal. Just whatever I have left, I'll give it to them.
Your life matters. It matters. And they know it matters. Thank you. Yeah, it's a big deal. You are. That is your story. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So we have about 10 minutes, and I wish I could go and hear everyone's story, because your story matters. That world you created today, as you said, right? Like, oh, it's just a silly world. It's beyond that. It's your story. It's the story of your grief. It's the story of your loss. It's the story of your mother. It's the story of your father. It's the story of you. It's the story of your life, right? The loss. Your children, if you lost children through this disease, right? Your parents, if you lost your parents through this disease. yourself, right? And so as you look at your world, I want you to kind of reflect individually, like on your own, looking at your world. Where are you in this world? And how are you feeling as you look down on your world? What is the feelings that enter your body? What are the thoughts that enter your brain as you look down on your world? And I'll give you a few minutes to reflect individually about that as you look. And as you're doing that, placing yourself in the world that you've created, where is the grief? Where is that sense of loss that you can never get back again? The sadness so deep that you've lost a big part of yourself, your world, your life. Where is that grief in this world that you've created? And think about that. I brought so many of the bodies, and I was like, when is someone gonna get the body? I know, you were the first one. And as you reflect on your world, notice that this world matters, your grief matters, you matter. Like I said, right, like his legacy lives on, right? That's his hope. Your hope matters, right? And so what, if we could, we have just a few minutes. I wish we had longer, but if I could have a Q&A, and then there is a mic that's very crucial, apparently, that needs to come to you before you speak. So if I could prompt some of the questions, right? What about your world surprised you? And if I could have some volunteers, if they're willing to share.
So what actually surprised me, I'm sitting next to my husband and my world, and then he did his world, and he doesn't take things seriously very often. And somehow our worlds kind of meshed and made sense together. So what I created was, I didn't think about cancer at all actually when I did the exercise until you asked these questions, and I reflected then when you asked, what have you lost? Or what do you feel you're grieving? And I think what I'm grieving is the world that I thought that I was going to have, which was, built the home and, the dinosaurs representing our kids and the love of like music that we have and just the family that we created, unified and came together. And yes, we still have that, but then we have the shadow of cancer now. And so I'm grieving the part without the cancer. Yeah. That's what came up to my mind. But I just wanted to share that was unexpected, that our worlds somehow worked together without us actually talking about what we were grabbing. So that was very impactful for me today.
Yeah. And you
Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for sharing. And you said, my husband doesn't take anything seriously. And then he was like, oh, this isn't that. And then there's a story. There's your story. Your loss, your children in that story, and they matter. Your husband matters. Your loss matters, right? And this disease matters because it's like I said, the center right now. This is everything. Like your children are impacted. You're impacted, and to grieve that, right? And you're surprised. You're like, oh wait, it was just a dinosaur. No, they're my kids. This is my story. This is my husband's story. My kids' story. So thank you for sharing that, yeah. If I could have one more person share, I know I wish I could go and hear everyone's story because I see so many emotions in the room. But if I could have one more person share what surprised you about your world, if they're willing. If not, oh, yeah. Christy? Christy, you would like to share? Okay.
Hi, I'm Christy, and as many of you know, I lost my husband 5 weeks ago. My world, I kind of did the same thing where I misunderstood the assignment. Let's just say that. So I went along building a little friend group here, which it kind of represents all of you out here that have offered support and love. And I feel like these are all versions of me. I have a little pig for my days when I don't want to get out of my jammies. And then this is my work person that, she's got to pull it together, go to work, carry on with life. And this one here is like my caregiver one. That was my role for the last 4 years. And the spider is the cancer that came and took away the person I thought I was going to be with for my whole life. Yeah. The way I look at it now, I have a little fairy here. And this is like me trying to flit around and kind of figure out who I am now and what my life is going to look like.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Christy. I hear so much in your story, right? And you're noticing like this spider came and creeped, just this little spider, unnoticeable, and it creeped into your world. And then it's there dead in the center, controlling this world that you had no idea would turn into your world. And here you are and lost your husband 5 weeks ago to that spider that you did not even expect. Thank you so much for sharing your world, and the loss that you feel and the grief. And thank you for sharing that with the group, And the beauty of that, right? Like your beautiful pink hair, you picked her, and her beautiful pink hair.
They're all pink.
Yeah, that was your story. That's you in that world. So this matters. Your world matters. Your loss matters, right? Your husband mattered. Yeah. And you know what? That spider that creeped in matters, because we're all here today because of that spider that we did not even know, right? It's so tiny, and no one noticed that it would enter anyone's world. It's just a spider, but no, it's not. It took everything away. For Christy, it took everything. So thank you for sharing. So we have about 2 minutes, and I really, really wish I could get to everyone's world. But before we go to the next prompt, I really want to thank everyone in this room, right? I want to thank you for creating your world, being brave enough to create that world. And yeah, it's silly and it's not serious until you realize it is your story. So thank you for sharing your story with me, with your partner, to everyone in this space. And thank you for sharing your story to you and showing yourself that my story matters. Because in this moment, as we sit here with our 1 minute left, I want everyone to reflect and kind of remind themselves, my grief matters, my story matters, and I matter. And with our 1 minute left, if I could ask everyone from this row to bring up the miniatures. Oh, you're like, I wish we could keep it. I know. If you would like, you can take these are miniatures that I've collected over the years, with lots of stories that I've witnessed, so we need them for further healing. So thank you so much for participating. I know these miniatures are so important now. Yeah.
My flower had a spider in the center too.
Did it have a spider? Oh, I didn't even notice. It was a sneaky spider. It's a sneaky spider.
Like it validated.
Yeah.
When you said that, like I was like, oh my god.
Like you wouldn't even notice, and then you're like, oh my god, there's this spider that's controlling.
And I never really evaluated how I thought about that.
Bringing the miniatures. If I could have this row bring your miniatures back. Thank you, thank you. I know these miniatures mean a lot now to you. So it means a lot that we're getting them back. Yeah, yeah. Bring up your miniatures, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Did you take a picture of yours? Okay, we'll share our worlds later. I took a picture of me too. Yeah. We'll share. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys, if you haven't already, please take your miniatures and place them back. We are going to move on. Yep. Can I ask everybody to find their seats? Okay. Okay, guys, we are going to move on, but before we do that, I would just like to thank Anne. I think I can speak for a lot of people in here when I say that this was very healing, very surprisingly healing. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with these little toys, but no, it was amazing, and it was amazing to hear everyone's stories. So our next speaker is Janelle Smith, who will be speaking on nutrition and recovery. Janelle Smith is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and certified eating disorder specialist with lived and clinical experience in supporting a peaceful relationship with food in the midst of gastrointestinal distress. She is a senior dietitian at UCLA Health Digestive Disease Nutrition Program and has a private practice. Janelle Smith, Nutrition. Everyone, please welcome Janelle.
Thank you so much. Last night I started to lose my voice, so this is not my typical voice, but we're gonna make it work. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Aki for inviting me. So I am from the UCLA Digestive Health Nutrition Program, and we work with so many different types of gastrointestinal disorders, but certainly have been working with Stokan for quite a while as well. So please reach out should you need anyone on your personalized team. So you will see, hopefully in front of you, do we have the handouts? Does anyone have a handout that says like, my nutrition goals? Okay, so you will be receiving a handout that we'll be able to do an activity together to really take something home that applies to you. But also a lot of what I'm speaking about today is in your nutrition guidebook that my colleague Nancy Jaffe contributed to from UCLA. And so if anything is going too fast, just remember that you're going to have all of it, basically, in your guide. Do I have 75 minutes or 45? Does anyone know? Yeah, 75, right? Okay, it says 45, but... All right, so thank you so much for having me. Just a reminder of my credentials. So we're going to talk about nutrition, some facts and figures as it relates to gastrointestinal cancers, how we apply nutrition in different situations, whether it's before surgery, preparing for surgery, in the face of different chemo or radiation treatments, as well as post-recovery or recovery. So what are we doing based on what changes have happened to treat the stomach cancer? We'll have time for some very specific nutrients to talk about, as well as a lot of your own questions. And then we're going to do an activity together. So we will save questions for kind of a midway break before we do the activity. And then during the activity, I'll also ask people if you'd like to share. So one of the biggest things we talk about with stomach cancer, really any cancer, is malnutrition. And I'm curious, when people hear the word malnutrition, do you think of like someone who's like bone, skin and bone, like doesn't eat anything, you know, maybe it's been days or weeks or months or, right? I think that's kind of almost like the stigma we have about malnutrition, is that it looks a certain way and that everyone can see it. But really malnutrition is individualized. It's different from person to person, and it doesn't always look like what our stereotype is of malnutrition. We know that 40% of patients with cancer, with any cancer, experience weight loss and malnutrition, but 80% of those with upper GI cancers. And that's because our stomach is so essential to eating. So it really changes the way and how much we can nourish ourselves. And then we'll talk about this on the next slide, but between 50 and 80% of patients prior to treatment and during treatment meet criteria for what's called cachexia. So at the bottom there we have cachexia is kind of a progressive loss of muscle mass and fat stores along with a decline in function. So when we're malnourished to a certain extent, it really affects what you can do and who you are and how you think. So kind of to dispel some of those myths, I want to talk about the different types of malnutrition. There's certainly just a lack of overall energy intake. This means maybe eating smaller portions overall, or loss of appetite, eating less frequently throughout the day compared to, you know, under normal conditions. Another type of malnutrition is specifically not getting enough protein. And protein is really essential to use for building and maintaining and healing cells, like our tissues, our blood cells, our brain cells, our organs. And so ideally, we don't want to use protein for all of our energy. We want to save the protein to make up and heal our body when it's going through these challenges. We could be malnourished for very specific vitamins or minerals, especially if the anatomy is changed through the diagnosis, or if taste changes and aversions arise and you really can't eat enough of certain nutrients, micronutrients. We also have higher needs during a state of cancer. So actually your body uses more calories and more protein than before the cancer. And so we call this like hypermetabolism or catabolism, that your needs are actually higher than a typical person. We also can have losses due to malabsorption or vomiting and diarrhea. We do lose some nutrients through vomiting and diarrhea. And then eventually this means breaking down your vital body tissues, the muscle, the fat, and the vital organs. Did y'all know that fat is an essential part of your body? Good, okay. Okay, so to kind of go face to face, head to head with malnutrition before surgery, it's actually really important to prepare, almost like you're preparing for a marathon. Okay, so that surgery or that treatment, we want to go into it with the best situation possible. Is anyone here in this situation where they're preparing for treatment? Okay, great. So you mentioned that I recommended slightly higher needs, especially if you've lost any weight or any muscle mass. We want to try to get that back prior to going into surgery if possible. And so I put some calculations down here. We're going to use those numbers in our handout to really calculate your own needs. It might sound like meaningless to you at this point, but it is higher. You could take my word for it. Then once we've had surgery, it actually requires even more protein and even more calories to heal the tissue. So we want to make sure that there's plenty of resources available for our body to heal. And when there's not enough resources, nutrition available, that can have long-lasting effects. And you'll hear me talk about protein a lot. I know it's kind of like a buzzword also in our diet culture, but really it's not about bulking at all. It's really about the cells that make up your body and help you heal. So, some tips for maintaining weight. I'm curious, okay, I'm going against my own word. What kind of challenges those people in this room have had to getting enough nutrition, either before or during treatment? I'll repeat it. Cachexia. You're dealing with cachexia. Yeah, you didn't know you could lose fat in your feet. Might be hard to be sitting in these chairs even, because there's, yeah. Did you want me to get the mic going so that the live stream can hear all this? Okay. Anyone else want to share, like, what are some challenges just to getting enough nutrition? Hold on 1 second.
I had a long surgery, 13 hours. And after that, I was fighting for my life. And for 5 or 6 weeks, I lost 40 pounds of muscle. So that was a real shock to watch me in the mirror after that. It is, yeah. It took a long time, but I rebuilt part of it over a year and a half. I think it took me to get to a point where I could function a little bit the way I used to be. But nutrition became something very, very important to me. So I started to study it, and it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was.
Thank you for sharing that and acknowledging that. I've got 10 years of studying to agree with that.
I think for me, I had my first stomach cancer 37 years ago. And at that time, I didn't feel like there was very much support. And so over the years, I've had an extreme problem with low blood sugar. And at first, I didn't understand what was happening. And I've had a second stomach cancer in 2024. And since then, I still really, even when I eat healthy, good meals, in about an hour and a half or so, I get that horrible drop in blood sugar. So I think that's a huge challenge.
Let's do one more share.
So I had my surgery last year, and my stomach cancer, everybody has a different story, but I had gastric bypass in 1994.
Prior.
And they left the remnant stomach in my body to help with whatever, and that's where the cancer was. And so when I had surgery, because I had gotten really sick, they found a liter of septic fluid in that stomach as well. So it was a good thing that they removed it. But right when I woke up, I had lost my ability to walk, to stand. My whole body had shut down. And so I was in rehab for 42 days. My albumin was 1. And so just learning to try and eat right again, because I had the gastric bypass 30 years ago, so I had went through different things on trying to eat and deal with dumping syndrome and everything like that. But it's a lot, and it's new to my doctors too. I'm like a unicorn with glitter, but it's just trying to figure out what I can do and what I can eat, and with the gastric bypass that I still have, what can I tolerate and not. So my refrigerator is a hodgepodge of all kinds of crazy things.
It's like a science experiment, and you're the only participant. And a lot of times it's kind of up to you to figure out what works for your body, which is a huge ask, right? When you're dealing with so many different things. Thank you all for sharing. We'll definitely have more opportunities for that. I think something I hear a lot of people in my clinic say is changes in their appetite. Food not sounding good, food not tasting good, not being able to eat the size of portions that they used to be able to eat, or really experiencing negative symptoms from eating. I mean, it changes so much when food used to be just this pleasurable experience, right, that didn't require that much thought. So more like, what sounds good right now? What do I have? Versus, okay, now what's not gonna put me into pain? What's not gonna make me nauseous? What's not gonna give me low blood sugar an hour and a half later? So hopefully these recommendations are gonna help you to better learn how to get food that works well in your body. And even for myself, it's a lot of trial and error because, we don't have enough research for every single person in this world. So know that your experience is the most important one, even if it doesn't seem to match what you're reading should be happening. So to get enough nutrition under these circumstances, we usually recommend having smaller portions more frequently. So small meals and big snacks is also another way to think of it. Or there's just no difference between a meal and a snack anymore. It's kind of just like eat throughout the day. Sometimes people call it grazing, but it's important when grazing or eating frequently to think about, am I getting all the different components of nutrition that I need throughout the day? Oftentimes modifying the texture of a food is going to be really helpful to making it more tolerated in your body. So modifying texture might mean cooking it for a really long time till it's, really soft and tender or falling apart. It might mean blending or pureeing something. I think typically if we think about it, the stomach is our mechanical digestion. It's like a washing machine. You put your clothes in the wash and you put the soap in, that's your stomach acid and your enzymes, and then it just goes like this, right? That's the mechanical part. And miraculously, it really cleans, right? So same is true for our stomach. It's supposed to, the contractions are supposed to help with breaking down the food, but a lot of times that process is limited or gone entirely. And so what we need to do is we need to pre-digest our food. We need to help our stomach out a little bit. And so put things in that are already kind of somewhat digested mechanically. We can also really maximize every bang for your buck, right? Choose the highest calorie foods if you know that you can really only tolerate a small portion of them. You want to make sure that they're really dense. And oftentimes this is the opposite of diet culture, right? We're thinking about eating the least amount of calories or the most volume with the least impact on your weight. And we just flip that upside down, right? Now we're trying to maximize nutrition in a small amount of food. And so some tips for that can be using olive oil, avocado, mashed if needed. Usually nut butter is a lot better tolerated than whole nuts. And then sometimes even nut flour, so like almond meal can be more nutritious than maybe a white flour, for example. And I like to think of stacking spreads. So maybe before you would just have a piece of toast with butter on it. No, what can you add to that? Can you put peanut butter on top of your butter? That's actually common practice in some places in the Midwest. But now it can be popular in California. You got butter and then peanut butter, and then maybe you got some fruit, and then maybe you got some honey on top of that, right? We're really stacking on the calories and the nutrients without adding a whole much more volume. The caveat to this is when you have a difficult time tolerating fat or sugar, and we'll talk about that a bit more later. Some tips for increasing protein is to use more ground meat. So again, that's the mechanical digestion. A steak actually requires a lot of chewing, a lot of breaking down, and it's actually not fully digested until it gets all the way through our gut. But if we can grind it up, that actually allows our body to extract a lot more nutrition from it. Flaky fish often fits this profile, whereas shellfish sometimes is harder to break down. So kind of if you can see it breaking apart on your plate before you put it in your body, that's a good thing. We already talked about nuts, butter, seed butter, sunflower butter, pumpkin seed butter, if you didn't know these things existed. Dairy can be a really good source of nutrition. It's got protein, it's got fat, it's got some carb, and it's got a lot of vitamins. And it's typically the right texture for a lot of people. Beans, totally recommend them pureed or stewed. So, like a lentil soup or a split pea soup is a lot easier to break down than a whole bean. We'll talk a bit more about protein powders and protein drinks, because sometimes it's just kind of impossible to get enough protein through food. Here's some popular shakes and beverages that are available on the market. I recommend you aim for at least 250 calories and 15 grams of protein in a shake. So sorry, but Premier Protein, the most popular one at Costco, is not nutritious enough. It's got like 100 calories. We really need more. If you're gonna take up the space in your stomach, if it's smaller or non-existent, we need to have less volume and more nutrition. Sometimes replacing water with protein water or other beverages is better, so that we, again, if you're filling up on water or having negative symptoms from plain water, can we actually put some nutrition into your water to help you? Then we can mix things in to our food to really pump up the nutrition. So Benacalorie is this little 1.5 ounce cup. It has 330 calories. So you put that Benacalorie in your rice pudding, and all of a sudden, it's a meal. So if needed, the Benacalorie can be really helpful. It's mostly oil and protein, and it's mostly unsaturated fats. So it can be a convenient way to boost it up. We can also just use the ingredients in our house or a protein powder. I like unflavored protein powders because you can put them everywhere. If you get a chocolate, peanut butter, coffee protein powder, you're not going to want to put that in everything, right? And you're going to get pretty sick of it. But you can get unflavored protein powder, and I'm going to give you brands. You could put it in your oatmeal, in your pancakes, in your soup, in your milk. You could add protein to milk to make it even more high protein milk, right? MCT oil is another type of oil that's usually easier to tolerate than other types of oil for people with upper GI disease because it doesn't require any digestion. It's already a very small molecule that just goes right absorbed into our intestines. So you might have heard about bulletproof MCT oil going in your coffee. But you can put it everywhere. You can use it in the place of olive oil or butter as well. This is actually one of the smoothies that I believe, oh no, this is a basic recipe, but there are actually smoothie recipes in your nutrition guide to help you, because sometimes the ratio's a little off and just doesn't taste that good when you play around. So we've given you some ratios that should help it be a good product. And sometimes with like taste aversions or negative experiences with food, it is harder to chew and swallow. It actually takes a lot of effort to do that. So sometimes just sipping something or having it with a spoon is a lot easier. Okay, so now we're going to get to coping with symptoms from different types of treatment. So with chemo and radiation therapy, it really can affect symptoms like nausea and vomiting, taste changes, and then bowel changes. So when there is more nausea and vomiting, I try to tell people, do they know anyone who's been through morning sickness, right? Like, what do people eat? Dry saltine crackers, maybe ginger ale, lemon heads. That was my favorite. So sometimes there's very specific cravings that we should lean into because it's really probably our body telling us something. But oftentimes it's drier foods, not filling up with liquids because liquid makes our stomach feel more expanded, and that increases nausea for a lot of people. So it's the opposite of what I was just talking about. Having liquids in between food so it doesn't fill up space, or using kind of bland or like room temperature or cold food, because sometimes aversions are stronger when it's warm and really fragrant. If there's taste changes, it can be really helpful to avoid metal utensils and red meat that has a metallic aftertaste, and instead to use plastic utensils. And we're going to talk about some different ways that we can change foods to make them more palatable. So these are fast fixes for troubled taste buds, that if food in general tastes too much of something, you can actually add either olive oil, lemon juice, salt, or maple syrup to really make it taste what you're used to or what tastes better to your new taste buds. Anyone going through this now? So if constipation becomes an issue, here's a few different tips. And definitely like an individual dietitian can be really helpful with figuring this out if these simple tips aren't helping. So typically a warm liquid in the morning helps stimulate what's called a gastrocolic reflex. You know how a lot of people get up in the morning, have their cup of coffee, and go poop? That's actually physiology. There's the caffeine as a stimulant, but it can help with any warm fluid. So sometimes people do warm water, warm prune juice. Prune juice has a laxative effect. So does celery juice. I think that might be what that craze is about. It's also really important to have consistent food throughout the day, because when we don't eat for long periods of time, our gut actually slows down and doesn't move as quickly. So if you're struggling with constipation, we want to look at, are you eating just a couple times a day? Are you skipping breakfast? Let's try adding that back in, because a warm meal and a warm beverage in the morning are really good for stimulating that first bowel movement. On the other hand, if we're experiencing diarrhea, which I feel like is a bit more common in chemotherapy, we may need to change some things to help with that. Usually, higher fat meals cause more diarrhea, and oftentimes more nausea and vomiting. So having very bland, we know the brat diet, bread, rice, applesauce, banana, rice, applesauce, toast, thank you. Those are all very low-fat, starchy foods. That actually really helps with diarrhea and with kind of absorbing water and binding everything together. So a hamburger and fries is much more likely to cause diarrhea than a piece of toast and an egg, for example. Same with roughage. So roughage is what I call the rough fiber. So we've got the soluble fiber that's really smooth and juicy. It's like the inside of an apple. That holds water. But the rough fiber is the skin or the seed or the peel. That type of fiber actually can increase diarrhea. So if you're experiencing diarrhea, it can be helpful to have more of the soluble fiber, less of the insoluble or roughage. And then when having diarrhea or vomiting, it's really important to replace certain minerals that are called electrolytes in our bloodstream. So one simple formula can be to do water with some salt and some sugar. I think that last one got cut off. That says 2 tablespoons of sugar. Yes, I'm asking you to put sugar in your beverage. I'm going to tell you why. And then some type of flavoring. Okay, so to absorb salt through our cells, they need a chaperone. They can't just get into the club all by themselves. They need a bouncer. Okay, and that bouncer is sugar. So sugar knocks on the door and says, please let salt in, and there it goes. All right? So if we don't have the sugar, we don't get the salt either. All right, so if you've noticed, those electrolyte drinks are mostly sweetened, and then now they market them as unsweetened. You actually want the one that's sweetened. Fiber supplements can be really helpful. This is like a constant daily, I think of it type of like a medication that just helps keep your stool form more consistent. Psyllium husk is a common one available. All these are over the counter. Psyllium husk is in the name Metamucil, but there's actually a lot of different ways you can take psyllium husk, including capsules, or unflavored powder if you don't like that orange taste. Benefiber is a type of wheat dextrin. Also Optifiber is wheat dextrin. And it's really good at absorbing water, especially for like diarrhea. It is a bit more gas producing, so if you don't tolerate it, what I actually recommend instead is called guar gum. And the brand Sunfiber there is an example of guar gum that's really good for treating diarrhea, but not causing excessive gas. Citrusel is another one that dissolves really well and is helpful for constipation for the most part. Okay. Any questions right now? Let me get June.
So I guess I have a stomach, I'm stage 4, but I do struggle with some of these things, so they resonate. And when it comes to treatment time, one of the things that I struggle with, which I don't know if others do, is where you have the constipation and then you go right into the diarrhea. And so it's like, how do you balance those two when your body is going through so much? It's almost like I'm having the brat diet, and then now I'm gonna do the fibers to slow it down, or all that stuff. Is there a way to reconcile the two somehow so that it can go smoother?
Yeah. So sometimes diarrhea is overflow, meaning that there's a dam somewhere in your intestines. That dam is constipation. And the only way to kind of plunge that blockage or clog is to send a bunch of rushing water through, which becomes the diarrhea. So I actually really recommend a fiber supplement all the time, not just when you're having one symptom or the other. The fiber is actually going to help it all come together into one more uniform type of stool. So it's better to do this preventatively than to just keep changing everything every other day based on your symptoms. Yeah. How about another question? Yeah.
Is there someone right here?
Any other questions at this point, or should we move on? Oh, one more.
This is just quick, but how often are you supposed to do the fiber? Is it like once a day? Is it 2 or 3 times a day? Is it with every meal? Like, how do you typically recommend we move forward adding more fiber?
Yeah, I recommend starting at once a day. And one dose a day may not be a therapeutic dose, as we say, but it's a way to get your body used to that fiber. So if 1 dose a day helps and makes everything regular, great, stay at that dose. But a lot of people do need 2 or 3 doses a day. And I do recommend having those doses at different times. So for a lot of people, it's twice a day and then 3 times a day if they need it. But we kind of want to gradually introduce fiber and then instead of just doing it all at once. Okay, so let's talk about after gastric surgery. You basically have a brand new organ that you have to learn what it needs. And it's going to be a learning process. I don't know if anyone has raised kids, but they're always spitting out food. They're always like choking, or like sometimes they throw up from eating too much, right? They're actually experimenting. They're learning how their body works. So it's okay to be making mistakes because you have to get used to this new way that your body is working. So oftentimes there's a much smaller reservoir. So typically when a normal stomach eats, it's going to start kind of small, but it's going to relax and fill up like a balloon or a water balloon. And it's going to go like this to accommodate the entire meal. That often doesn't happen after you've had a gastric resection. And so your stomach's just going to stay like this. And that means nausea, vomiting, or discomfort, usually, when you reach your limit of how much your stomach can hold at that moment. So it may mean needing to have very small portions. I'm talking like a half a cup, maybe, much more frequently, because you have to wait for that food to move along. So again, even more small, frequent meals and snacks. Oftentimes, we do need to have a lower amount of fat, unless it's MCT or coconut oil, because we don't have that mechanical digestion available to us. It's pretty common to develop lactose intolerance, especially if part of the intestine is now changed or taken out or bypassed. Lactose is actually digested and absorbed in the first part of our small intestine, and so you may need to switch to lactose-free dairy. Kind of same principle, drink between meals instead of with, because you don't want to fill that little reservoir with just water if you're trying to maximize nutrition. Chew food really well so that, again, you're doing the mechanical digestion for your body. Okay. Definitely sit upright. So those sphincters are supposed to close and prevent us from everything from falling out when you bend over, but that might be gone now. So things may fall out when you bend over, or when there's too much pressure around your abdomen, if you're wearing too tight of clothing. It's really important to sit upright, and sometimes even taking a gentle walk gravity can help it go down, down, down through your GI tract. And then usually recommend eating protein first, because if for any reason you're not able to finish, we want to make sure that you got that protein. So dumping syndrome is something that is really common when we alter the anatomy of the stomach and the small intestine, because there's not enough time for your body to adapt to the food, because now it's going through so quickly and it's missing some pieces that usually help balance out those nutrients. So often feeling overly full, having nausea or vomiting, abdominal discomfort, and then dizziness and diarrhea, and even like sweating, heart palpitations, fatigue. These are, so if it happens immediately, that's early dumping syndrome. It happens a bit later, like 1.5 hours, that's late dumping syndrome. And typically our pancreas is releasing hormones to help digest our food, whether it's insulin to help move the sugar through the body, or digestive enzymes, proteases, lipase, all those enzymes that help take our meal and put it where it needs to be throughout the body. Sometimes they're still learning too. They're like, I'm not really sure how long it takes the food to get here now. So let's just put out a bunch of digestive enzymes. Let's release a ton of insulin to cover it. And then the meal hits an hour and a half later, and oops, our body made a mistake. It gave us way too much insulin. And so now we go into low blood sugar. Okay. Typically, this is worse when we have a higher carb, simple carb meal. So it can be helpful. We still want to have some carbs like bread, rice, potatoes, but we don't want to have as much sugar, fruit juice, that really intensifies this reaction. So sugar less than 10 grams per serving, sometimes even less, and make sure we have a protein and a fat with every carb that we eat. This is going to help it go a little bit slower through our digestive tract. If we can tolerate fiber-rich foods, this can also help slow things down and prevent that back and forth reaction of our body. The screen up here keeps flashing on and off. So that's why I was checking. Okay, well, I'm gonna look at this screen for right now. So when we have different types of resections, there are different types of micronutrients that may be malabsorbed. A lot of times our gut does adapt to this over time. So initially we can't absorb B12 or B1 because the part of the duodenum where we usually absorb it is gone. But sometimes over long periods of time, a different part of your intestine actually starts taking over that job and does a better job of that. So you can see on the left, these are different vitamins and where they're absorbed in your digestive tract. And this is something that your dietitian would really focus on, is what is your new anatomy, and which ones can be absorbed and which ones can't. There are some cases where it's never going to be absorbed orally, and we have to get it IV. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people with gastric bypass who are very deficient in a lot of different micronutrients because they've been taking their oral vitamin, but they've not been absorbing it at all. So if just the stomach is removed, we're mostly talking about intrinsic factor and a few different metals like copper, fluoride. If we have the esophagus and the duodenum, that impacts a lot more vitamins. And then if we include part of the jejunum, that often means less like fat absorption as well. So here's some labs that you may work with your provider to actually order and check. I'll give you a caveat, is that blood tests aren't the most accurate when it comes to vitamins and minerals. That's because our body stores a lot of them other places, not in our blood, and it's hard to really get a good reflection of all the vitamin D in your body, because it's not all in the blood. But these are some particular vitamins that we would want to check and supplement and continue to check throughout your life, right? You're not growing back your stomach. So we really need to tend to this forever. You'll see a lot of B vitamins up there. So B12 and iron in particular are two that sometimes will just never be absorbed in adequate amounts through the mouth. And they do need to be given either intravenously or intramuscularly, the B12 shots. So if you're hitting a roadblock, you're feeling so fatigued, brain fog, why am I so tired? I feel so cold all the time. These are two that are really important to advocate with your health providers, to please check them and to please do a medical intervention instead of just asking me to continue to take an oral vitamin over and over when it's not working. FYI, B12, typical range is like 250 to 1,000. You want your B12 at least 500, okay? Don't let a doctor tell you that 280 is great. It's not. Is there, the question is, oh, that's interesting. So the question is, when B12, is there any danger to it going too high? Okay, fun fact, if you took your vitamins that morning that you went to the lab, it's inaccurate, okay? So if you want to get an accurate measure, stop your vitamins 2 days before you go to get your blood drawn. So certain B vitamins, B6 in particular, we don't want it to be high. But again, we only know if it's high if you didn't take your vitamin pill that morning and you didn't take your emergency or your 5-hour energy drink or anything else that has B6 in it, okay? B12, we have no known toxic. There's literally never seen like a toxic B12. So if that's how high it needs to be for you to feel good, that is okay. Some exceptions, like I said, are B6, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin A. We don't want those to be high for very long, especially, again, if your blood test is accurate. Bone density scan is really important. So calcium is kind of a hard one to absorb, similar to iron, but it's almost impossible to measure in the blood. So typically when we take a blood test for calcium and it's in the normal range and everyone goes, oh, good, everything's fine, that's just to keep your heart beating, okay? Calcium in the bloodstream is just an electrolyte. Your calcium stores are in your bones. and that's never going to show up on a blood test. You have to get a bone density exam to see if you're lacking calcium in your bones. And that's something that can be repleted, especially in the short term after a surgery. So when we're healing, it's this kind of magical time where your body's like regenerating organs and parts that it wouldn't typically do at your age. So typically bone density just declines as we age. But post-surgery is a magical time where you can actually force more calcium into your bones. And that typically has to be done through a supplement and food sources. And it's not going to show up in your bloodstream. Some other things that could be helpful are branched chain amino acids that are basically the smallest, best absorbed proteins. And L-glutamine is one that can help the gut heal and to rebuild muscle throughout our body, including your gums, your tongue, your esophagus lining, your intestinal lining. And these help us to digest and absorb food better going forward. And then I would be remiss if we didn't also talk about emotional considerations with nutrition, because it's not all about what you know. There's plenty of nutrition information out there. It's more about how you incorporate it into your life and what are the challenges with doing that. So sometimes some challenges, and I want to hear from you all after this, but some things I hear is people feel kind of like they're being force-fed by their loved ones, like, eat, 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 you look so skinny, like, you know. And that is not an enjoyable experience with food most of the time, right? Sometimes it makes you just want to say no just because you can't tell me what to do, right? So be sure to vocalize this if you're noticing this is a negative pattern. And guess what? Sometimes that pressure is from your mind. So if you're feeling combative with your own brain around food, it's something to talk about so that you're not having this internal battle over it all the time. Pleasure around food can change so much because, again, now you're thinking, you're calculating, you're strategizing, you're wondering, what did I do wrong when I had the symptoms 2 hours after a meal? And this just completely changes your dynamic with food. It is a grieving process, and it can really change and help you appreciate different things about food. But that's something to be aware of, that pleasure can be completely different. Same with social isolation. If it's hard to watch other people eat foods that you can't eat, or if food is repulsive. Malnutrition or not having all the right nutrients also really impacts mood and thinking. So sometimes, yes, it's the grief process related to the diagnosis and the treatment and the adjustment, but sometimes it's about the vitamins. And actually getting the right vitamins can help you feel more like yourself. How about fear of food? And oh my gosh, am I feeding the cancer? Anyone relate with that? Yeah, this is so prevalent, I think. Probably some of you, your doctors, have even said, well, make sure you don't do this. That fear can really interfere with our relationship with food and just getting enough food or having an enjoyable experience with food, which you're allowed to do even if you have a diagnosis. You're allowed to enjoy food. And actually, a lot of those myths are addressed in this book, okay? That sugar does not actually feed the cancer. Cancer eats everything. There's no way we can say, oh, no, cancer, you should have the protein and not the sugar. Like, no, we don't control it, right? That's so much with diet can become this illusion of control when we really don't have the control over what is happening in our body. Now, obviously, sometimes we do, and that's when, again, if you're battling, if you're confused, get some help with this from someone who can look at it objectively and say, no, that's not something to worry about, but this is something we should focus on. Still others will have this bizarre, maybe to them, reaction to regaining weight. They can acknowledge, oh my gosh, no, I don't want to look sick, but I also don't want to go back to whatever that was before. And sometimes this does interfere with getting enough nutrition. So again, if that's happening, please talk to someone about that. A couple things to think about is how to add enjoyment to food when everything is changing. It could be a flower vase on the table. It could be going outside to eat your applesauce. Maybe applesauce is not your favorite food, but it's the food your body likes right now. So how can you make that a more fulfilling meal, right? Trying to enjoy people, if possible, around food, even if you're not eating the same food or they're not eating. Laughter. I also think it's really important to just appreciate like the love and kindness that can come from people trying to help you feed yourself. And it gets complicated because you have to ask now or say, no, I can't have that, or you can't pressure me to eat that. But sometimes it's the most touching thing when someone brings you a meal. Okay, so summary of this information is to get enough food and to remember that there's a lot of different parts of food and nutrients that are really important. Protein is a huge one, but energy in general, and guess what? Energy comes from food. It doesn't come from coffee, right? There's no energy in your coffee. It's in the food. Make sure to advocate for checking for nutrient deficiencies and taking care of them in the way that your body needs, which may be lifelong. I think those are the biggest takeaways. So I'm going to take a few more questions right now, and then we'll go into our activity. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, wait, let's get June so that those online can hear your question.
I take a chewable multivitamin. Is that necessary?
Often, yes. Okay. Actually, chewable liquid, so much easier to absorb. Has anyone ever seen a pill come out in their poop? No? Oh, people tell me this all the time. I guess it's my profession. Yes, so taking a chewable form or a liquid form pre-digests it. Make sure that it's available, and especially if things are moving quickly, there's not going to be enough time for your body to break that down.
I was just trying to save some money.
I'm sorry. Get the chocolate-flavored ones. There are chocolate-flavored vitamins. Okay.
Hi, my name's John. I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about sugar and diet, because on a lot of the stuff I see online, sugar is the enemy to cancer, and it causes cancer, and it's so scary to eat sugar, like that slide said. So how much sugar is safe for us to eat, or are we supposed to cut it out of our diet totally?
Yeah. This is what is so hard about nutrition, is it all depends. It is so individualized, and yet our world tries to make it so simple. And it's not that simple, honestly. If someone is claiming it's simple, it's not. Don't believe them, you run the other direction, okay? So overall, a diet lower in added sugar prevents cancer. But it does not cure cancer, it does not kill cancer, it does not do any of that. So if you're finding yourself in this position already, well, too late, okay? Now, for longevity, yes, we want to have tons of fruits and vegetables, protein. We want to have what we call an anti-inflammatory diet, which is mostly lots of plants. It doesn't matter if there's some sugar in with your plants. I would say general studies are saying maybe 25 grams of sugar per day, 15 to 25, is safe. There are certainly people who aim for less than that, and there's a lot of people who have more than that, and they do not get cancer, or they don't have a recurrence of cancer. So it's not a one-for-one, okay? It's not cause and effect, it's correlation. And so that's it's something to try to make a little less micro and more macro, and look at, okay, am I able to get enough calories if I eat a diet low in sugar? Not everyone is. Some people depend on Ensure, and that is all sugar. They're not feeding their cancer if they drink Ensure, okay? Is there a way I can incorporate more fruits and vegetables, even if they're blended? That's always going to be a good thing, as long as it's not taking up space from calories. So my not so satisfying answer is it all depends. And less is generally better, but not always. Let's see, where's June? There we go.
I had a total gastrectomy through a Biannual procedure, and I have never been able to really find any source that explains how my poor little gallbladder that I'm trying to keep is working. How does it work since it's behind the digestive tract now, and like what can I do to, if you know of anything, like to keep it as preserved as possible and functioning?
So gallbladder, usually with a Roux-en-Y, the gallbladder is just open. It's a free-for-all. The bile is just available all day, every day. And that can mean diarrhea, unfortunately. Cool. Gallbladder health is about having a more plant-forward diet and less saturated fat and animal proteins. So we know that, gallbladder disease is kind of like a rich man disease. It's if you eat a lot of red meat and pork, you're more likely to get gallstones and lose eventually the gallbladder. So having a lot of unsaturated fats, fish, flaxseed, walnuts, avocado, olive oil, those are going to be better fats for your gallbladder. But if eating fat is causing any symptoms, then something like MCT oil is going to be better. Great. My pleasure. June, there's someone up here.
Okay, just to piggyback on sugar and not causing cancer, here's an example. My daughter and my best friend, they both had the same oncologist. My daughter had PPO. My best friend chose to have HMO. At the point in their lives, they were malnourished. My daughter was started right away on TPN. And in another scenario, my friend in another institution where the same oncologist is practicing, she'd begged to be started on TPN. And he said no, because you're just feeding the cancer. So what do you say about that? I mean,
show me the study.
Yeah.
Mr. Surgeon.
And you know,
surgeons don't know a lot about nutrition. I'm just going to tell you
that. They starved her for like 7 days before they said, okay, let's just put in a gastrostomy tube surgically, because it was a different kind of cancer, but there was obstruction in the GI tract, so they had to surgically implant a gastrostomy tube, which for me is almost criminal, because you can't really absorb as much, versus having TPN. I'm a nurse. I gave my daughter home TPN for 12 hours a day.
Amazing.
It is.
I'm so glad you could help your daughter navigate that. I mean, Food fear and diet culture is rampant. It is ubiquitous. Doctors are some of the most affected by it, and they generally get 10 hours of nutrition education. So, are there studies going on the ketogenic diet for treating various cancers? Yes. Is it possible that eating no sugar treats cancer? Maybe. That study doesn't exist right now. The studies that do exist is malnutrition is going to kill you before anything else. Okay, so it's kind of a lesser evil, harm reduction, balancing of pros and cons. It is not an all or nothing decision, and you can always fight back. One thing to know is enteral formulas that go through a gastrostomy tube have just as much sugar as TPN. So I don't know what that surgeon thinks is happening in the body. Everything turns into sugar in our body, except for amino acids, unless we need them to. Hold on one second.
So my question revolves more around like lunch meats and ham and turkey and those types of things, because I know people kind of go with the sugar aspect, but then I also have people tell me, you shouldn't be eating honey ham and you shouldn't be eating the processed meats. And like, so what are we in that aspect? What is safe for us to, because I like my lunch meats. I really do. I don't buy the stuff that's in the bags. I usually go to the deli counter where they freshly slice stuff, and I've moved from, doing, like I said, the honey hams and those types of things, and I do like oven roasted turkey instead of the, different things. And is that stuff that we really should be considering in our diets and changing? What's your feeling on that?
It's nuanced. Are you ready? Are you ready for an unsatisfying response? Okay, so processed, aged, cured meats are associated with colon cancer risk. Do you have colon cancer? No. Do you want to prevent it? Probably. All of those studies are done on people who hardly eat fruits and vegetables. So, eating 3 hamburgers and 4 slices of bacon every day and never eating fruits and vegetables, yes, that causes cancer, that feeds cancer. Do we have a population study that says, what if you have cured lunch meat and in a salad? Does that cause cancer? My suspicion is no. So if that's the way you need to get protein, just think about your diet on a whole. If your diet is a lot of processed meat, yeah, good idea to switch to fresher forms or to add in more fiber. If your diet is processed meat like once a day, a few times a week, fine. It'll all balance out.
So I just wanted to take a quick survey in this room for people that have had a total gastrectomy. How many of you guys suffer from reactive hypoglycemia? Raise your hand. And then how many have had TGs and don't have any blood sugar issues? So 1. So as far as you know. So I wear a glucose monitor and it's not covered by by my insurance. So the CDC doesn't recognize hypoglycemia as a disease because we don't have diabetes. So that's something I wanted to talk about. Is there anything we can do? Because if I have 4 chips, I go from 80 to 200, and then I go down to 40. And so unless I eat a keto diet and I don't have any sugar or any carbs, but my brain is starving for glucose, I'm a mess, and it's really hard because I don't have a quality of life because I can't eat with my kids, and so I think that's an issue.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It is really, really hard. I have a follow-up question. Is it 4 chips, and is there anything else that you eat at the same time?
No, he gave me these, what was the brand? Siete. So it was arrowroot, tapioca, and it had 5 grams of sugar for 12 chips.
Or carb.
Yeah, there was no
probably not.
protein.
Okay, so anytime you have carb, you have to add protein and fat. Never eat carb on its
Alone.
own. Yeah. And in
Yeah.
fact, it's better to put the carb at the end.
At the
Okay,
end.
so you want to, if you imagine your stomach, you want to put the protein and then the fat and then the carb.
And that slows the
And then the
digestion.
fiber, right? Because you want your digestive enzymes to be released when the meal is starting to go through, but we want it to be timed better with that when the carbs hit. So if the carbs hit later, they're less likely to cause that up and down. Now, your blood sugar going up to 200 after a meal is normal. Okay, that's not exactly the problem. It's the fall that is the problem.
But I do spike up to, like, I've been to 260 for hardly eating any carbs. And is for a digestive enzyme, should we be taking like Creon? Should we be taking like a liquid digestive enzyme, a chewable?
So over-the-counter digestive enzymes are mostly for fiber and gas. So they're probably not going to prevent your hypoglycemia. If there is a coordination problem with pancreatic enzymes, yes. But those are prescription grade. They're not as good over the counter. If you try one over the counter and you think it helps, that's something to take to your doctor to say, I think we need to look into this more. Because, yeah, if your pancreas is, the timing of releasing the enzymes is not hitting when the food hits, then yeah, that could cause a lot of, what could cause maldigestion of the food or low blood sugar. It's hard to give, like it's not a across the board answer, but it could be the situation for many people. One other thing I'll say about reactive hypoglycemia before we move on to the next thing is there's such a thing as resistant starch, and that is the best kind of carb for those who get hypoglycemia. Resistant starch is harder to spike your blood sugar, okay? Because it's not actually fully digested and available. It includes carbs that have been cooked and then cooled and then reheated. So freezing the bread like that. Yeah, cooking the rice, letting it cool. You need it to cool like in the fridge. You don't need it to like decay, but and then keep it in the fridge and then heat it up again. So that type of carb is a little less likely to spike your blood sugar, and it can last a little bit longer. So especially I think for like the dumping syndrome that might be happening later, I think that could be really effective. Things like bananas that are greener have more resistant starch. You don't want to eat raw potatoes. Okay, that'll make you sick, but you can cook a potato, turn it into potato salad, and then have it, and it's resistant, okay?
Cool.
Now, theoretically, I would say potato or tortilla chips should fall into that category. So my first thing would be to add a bunch of protein and fat and see what the ratios are that your body needs. There are definitely people that do a very low carb diet to manage it just because they think it's more consistently available. But I think it's something to really follow up with a dietitian on also.
An endocrinologist is helping as well.
Are they? Because they often don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm sorry if there's a doctor in the room.
No, I mean, mine gave me a pill. It's Archibos.
Okay.
And it's in case I want to eat like a heavy carb meal, it will slow down my blood sugar.
Great.
So that's
Okay,
helpful.
beautiful.
And then there's also a trial coming out, I think next year for to help people with reactive hypoglycemia for a better quality of life if we just want to eat normal. So it's a trial, and it might come out next year. So there's a future, hope.
Thank you for sharing that. We're not going to have enough time to go through the whole activity, which is okay because you guys want to talk about the question. But I want to point one thing out to you. Okay, so if everyone has their hand out. Good. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. So on the handout, I gave you a space to kind of like put out a typical day of eating. It doesn't have to be it can be a generalization because nobody eats exactly the same thing every day. But just to kind of reflect on it and say, am I getting enough protein? Am I getting fruits and vegetables? Am I getting kind of like multiple meals or snacks throughout the day? And for you to reflect on, what do I feel like is going well? And what do I feel like could go better? As well as what are the challenges for me doing differently? In terms of calculating your needs, do y'all want me to help you through that real quick? Bring out your calculator, okay? Everyone, calculator's on their phone. Unless you brought your calculator. Okay, so you're going to take your current weight or your goal weight. Actually, let me grab one real quick. Okay, so I made it easy. We don't have to translate to kilograms. We're going to do it in pounds. So for a lot of people, for maintenance, you multiply your pounds by 15. 15. If you're needing to gain weight or if you have higher needs than usual because you're in the middle, you're in a state of inflammation or you're in the middle of treatment, you want to multiply by 20. So that's approximately how many calories you need. Obviously, it's different. It can be different and individualized. But just to give you a ballpark. And then in terms of protein, you want to take your weight and divide it by 2. That's the minimum amount of protein that we should be eating in a day, in grams, yes. And then if you take your weight and you divide it by 1.1, that's like kind of the upper limit of protein to be having, especially if you're trying to rebuild muscle, going through treatment, recovering from surgery, etc. It should be on page 2 of your handout, if you got one. Yeah, you would probably be between 15 and 20, and between 2, it's probably like a midpoint of each of these ranges. I mean, you could, the only way to know for sure is to try it, because the watches, the smart devices we have are not 100% accurate by any means, but they're kind of a starting place. So it might be like plus or minus 300 on either side is what you need. But yeah, a lot of times people are underestimating how much they need to eat, and they think, well, if I eat more, am I going to gain fat? But then they eat more and they don't, and they just feel amazing because now they have all this energy. So sometimes eating more just improves your metabolism and your sense of well-being. And then I put down some of our like main vitamins and minerals of concern for you to circle. And then helping you with making some nutrition goals. So some take-home homework if you would like. I'll be available outside for questions too if we'd like to do that. Anything else, or should I wrap up for now? Okay, all right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Janelle. That was really informative, and I think something we can all benefit from that. So this concludes our morning session. We will now go next door to the reception hall for lunch and hear from Lauren and Daniel Kim, who will be speaking on growing up with a parent battling cancer. We will return to our session in this room at 1 p.m. for afternoon sessions. All right, guys.